Good morning.
Good to see everyone. Another, I guess, 7th fan day, media day. Right? They all good to see everybody. Glad everybody can get over and see us, and hope you get watch good practice today. Give you a week full of articles anyway. But I've been excited for camp. I think I like the dynamic of this football team so far. I like the attitude of it. I mean, we have a lot of work to do. We have to get to places. We have some young guys that got to get developed. Guys got to take roles, and hopefully we'll play. We're starting now in our practices, making sure that we're down and distancing every play, every situation is a new adventure for these guys. Because I think playing football is one of the challenges of this team. I think is going to be, like all teams are, how intelligent you play. Ability is one thing, but you have to play the game very intelligently. Football is a very situational game, and I say it all the time. You can play the midfield downs extremely well, first and second downs, and do things pretty well, and play situations poorly and lose. Or you can be very average there and play situations well and win. And I think, as we evaluate our players, we have to do a great job of educating. And part of this evaluation of our players is how they educate themselves to be able to play the game of football. Because I think one of the things we are right now, which if we had a combine, we'd be very good. We have a lot of big size, strong, fast guys that can run and jump. But we got to make sure we have good football players. And we're so caught up in a combine world today, and that we're worried about how big a guy, how high he jumps or whatever. And like I tell everybody else, for every great Michael Jordan you've watched, or Joe Montana, or Jerry Rice, there's probably 20 guys on the street that were every bit as talented, had all the ability, that couldn't put it together to play this game. This game is, sometimes there's so many intangibles that go with it. The toughness, the effort, the discipline, the pride you got to play with, then the intelligence you got to play with. Understand situations, down and distances, time of the game, momentum. There's so many things to be able to play. It's why guys, that some guys that have more ability, other guys are better players. And what I'm not saying that about our team, but what I'm saying is, as a coaching staff and what camp does, you really have the time to break all those situations down, and we got to do a great job of educating. So I think we have a chance to have a good football team. I really do. How good depends on how well we educate ourselves and how intelligently we play. And then with the intangibles that don't take ability, toughness, effort, discipline, and pride, which we talk about all the time. And I think that's been a staple of our organization for a long time, but we got to continue to grow in those areas. And I think the years that you grow in those areas more is your more successful years. I know that sounds crazy. You think we always do. Now, some teams take to that creed a lot more. And sometimes it comes from senior leadership, 2 or 3 guys that hold guys accountable, all those types of things. And I think that's when you have those truly great years. And that's going to be the challenge for us or any team, how well everyone takes to that. It eliminates clutter, eliminates the things that don't matter out of what goes on. And like I was told the story that makes me think of it, and y'all may not say, I was thinking back to the movie, The Last Samurai. It was a great movie. Actually, it came out the night we watched it, actually before the 2003 National Championship when I was at LSU. There's a couple of things that stick out, and there was one, everyone, how the respect they had for all the history of Japan, the warriors and all that. But there was a part of the movie where they were trying to teach Tom Cruise how to defend himself and use all the karate and all the different techniques in which they used. And they had these wooden sticks, because they all fought with the swords, remember the last, and of course, then you made a mistake, you died. They were teaching with sticks, and they were whooping him, flipping him, and laughing at him. And the one guy come up, the head guy's son, and tapped him on the shoulder, and he said, "You have too many minds. In other words, you have too much clutter. You have too many things you're thinking about. You're trying to overanalyze things. You're trying to do this. And you have to learn to focus and clear your mind and let yourself be coached, let yourself go there, let yourself do things and react." And I think that's the challenge, where you have to know your assignment. Football is the same way. When you overthink, everybody talks about it. I know y'all make the thing, I say clutter. And social media everything causes clutter. And you got to learn to compartmentalize your mind for what you're doing. And I think those are the challenges that truly great teams understand, and good teams get to a point but don't get there. And I think sometimes your senior leadership and maturity can help those young guys get to those places. Now, 2 things get you there, in my opinion. One, you got to know what you're doing so you react, and you got to know your assignment so well. You got to eliminate, you don't have time of the day to do a lot of things. You have to focus. You got schoolwork, you got to do the right things off the field, and you got ball. You ain't enough time in the day to get all those things, any more than that taken care of. And then you have to learn to compartmentalize and truly focus on the assignment and what you're being asked to do at that particular time. Whether it's ball, and in ball, it may be a third down situation, a red zone situation, or in class, is it study hall, is it tutoring, is it in the class taking notes? Or off the field, is it giving community service, is it helping a teammate, is it spending time with the guy to build a relationship if the guy's going through a tough time? And I think learning to understand that, to me, is what makes great teams. And them understanding that everyone needs each other. And I know that's immediate. We get caught up in all the physicality of recruiting guys. But really, at the end of the day, it's your mind that separates the really good and great teams. And the maturity and the ability to eliminate those things. And that's one of the things I've liked so far about this team, that, we've seen a lot of that in the summer. We didn't have a lot of clutter. Didn't have a lot of crazy things. The work ethic through Vic was very good from everything I heard. The practices, even though we're not doing things perfect, the attitude and demeanor and ability in which you go about your business has been very good. Now, what we have to do is take that next step to make sure that our execution goes up. So, but saying all that, I like the demeanor of this team. I like where we're going. I'm anxious for this camp. And like I say, camp you don't ever know what comes up in camp. There's always challenges every day. Guys get hurt. Guys get banged up. This happens. That happens. You go through it all. So you keep developing that identity, that personality, and that attitude, and we'll see where we go. But so far, I've been pleased with the first 5 practices. Questions?
You talk about a lot about demeanor, just kind of having that focus. When you say there's growth, what are kind of examples or signs that you see that you go, okay, this is different from what I saw maybe 6 months ago or 12 months ago?
Well, sometimes when you coach a guy will roll his eyes. Or like, man, that ain't my fault. And we're in the world now, it ain't my fault. Because every time we get in trouble at school and every time we get somewhere, ain't somebody's mom or dad running up and blaming the teacher, blaming the coach, blaming everything else. You know what I'm saying? We're in that, well, Johnny didn't do nothing wrong world. And I see kids, they get reprimanded, they get coached, or they get coached hard. Yes, sir. And even how they make a mistake, you can make a mistake in one way, you say, man, he has no chance or no clue what we're trying to get accomplished. Then there's a mistake, but it's still, it's not perfect, but the direction and the mindset and what he was trying to see is going in the right direction. And I see a lot of those things. You know what I'm saying? I don't see a lot of the, occasionally you'll have one like, man, because those young guys, no, we got to redo this. You know what I mean? We got to redo this. But that's part of it. But I don't see a lot of it in general with the upperclassmen and even those young guys not continuing to make a lot of the same mistakes. I think that's another great trait of good teams, the ability to learn in recruiting, not only athletic guys, intelligent guys, and guys that have a lot of character and wherewithal. Because I think in our world today, I think, now I sound like my dad. I used to say it all the time. I know it was always tougher in your day and it was always better, but I see that. I mean, kids today, and I guess each generation is going to be that way, of taking accountability of what they do. You know what I'm saying? And taking that responsibility. And I like what I see from that part of our team.
Jimbo, I know you say all kids are different frequently, but at this stage, August, his redshirt freshman year, where is DeAndre compared to Jameis' progress?
I'll never compare players like that. It's unfair to compare Jameis. It's unfair to compare DeAndre. I won't do it, and I don't know.
Okay. So strictly taking DeAndre, where is he right now? What's he have to do between now and
Just be consistent and be DeAndre. What he has to do is not worry about being Jameis, not worry about being Sean McGuire, not worry about being E.J. Manuel, not worried about being Christian. He needs to be DeAndre Francois. It's our job to figure out, for him to try to do what we coach him to do, and us to also figure out who he is and put him in position to do those things. We coached every one of those guys differently, called plays differently, called the game differently, did everything differently for every one of those guys. And that's part of my job and our coaching staff's job to figure that out. And within the content, people don't say, see, that's where football gets screwed up. It isn't just about DeAndre Francois. Maybe what DeAndre does and really likes, those 3 receivers don't do very well. Or the tight end doesn't do very well. Or the line doesn't block very well. So that's the thing about football that makes it the greatest team game. We all get concentrated on one guy. It's 11 individual jobs with a team, and I know but that often happens. A quarterback's strength doesn't match his offensive line, or doesn't match his backs, or doesn't match his receivers. I think that's where we miss the boat a lot. And I think that's where getting that cohesiveness back and forth and understanding what we do collectively as a team the best is what we'll do. I mean, we individually got to have strengths, and then there's got to be a give and take. It's how you call a game or do things. And what people, like I say, there's a lot of things I'd like to do that sometimes we can't do. You know what I'm saying? And I know the answers. But being able to execute them and knowing the answer, it ain't like writing it on a piece of paper. You got to go do it physically. And it's a different change. And I think that's where that thing is. But saying that, I like that DeAndre has done a great job mentally of approaching the game and practice the right way. Allowing himself to be coached, but he prepares himself. He learns well. Physically, he can make all the throws. I mean, there's not a part of the field he can't reach, and he has good touch. He can throw a touch ball, he can throw an over-a-top ball. And I think he's doing a great job of protection. I think he really understands. But I think now learning your receivers, learning the people around you, and that's learning how to call a game for him and what puts him at ease. And as these scrimmages and practices, and that's what we're testing now. I'll give him things in a boundary that I think, he probably won't do very good right here, but I want to see. And I'll test him and try to push his boundaries. It's like they always tell you when you train in the military, they always tell you got to take your body and your mind places that you never thought you could go. It's like players. You got to push them to that limit and then bring them back and then have success and do things they do well, keep them in a comfort zone and keep that relationship. So, I mean, we're in a finding, but I am with Sean. I do that with quarterbacks every year. I think that's one of the things that you have to do. But from that, I like his grasp of our offense, his run game, pass game, the protections. Does a great job with blitz, really good job with blitz stuff. So, I mean, I like his development so far, but we'll see where he can continue. The key is not being able to do it till he can do it right. Being able to do it till he can't do it wrong. Till he does it every time.
Jimbo, did you work a lot with him last year? Or was this spring and even these first few practices kind of him learning from you and you also learning kind of what he can do because you maybe didn't work with him a ton last year? I
did, and also I'm trying to, a lot of the meetings and things, I'm being a lot more vocal around him, making him be vocal with me because we have to have that relationship and get into that. Because Randy does a great job and there's things he does in the meetings and runs, but I've tried to get, not that I think there's something wrong, I just think you got to build that bond very early because Randy's a great coach and does a great job and even him are on the same page. But sometimes, even though someone else tells you the same thing, you still got to hear it, you know what I mean, through us a little bit, through the individual guy. So, and he also can understand, because people, I always tell, here's the difference. When you communicate through texting or Twitter or whatever, is it like talking to somebody? Because you can't see what? You can't see the emotion. You can't see I can say something on Twitter, it sounds bad, but I can say it to you, but also you can see the look in my eye or my body language that tells me something totally different. And I think it's very important for coaches and players to understand that, and also especially the head coach and the quarterback.
Jimbo, how important is it having a coordinator like Randy who at Tennessee, Kentucky, worked with different freshman quarterbacks and different skill sets?
It's good. Randy does a great job. It's very important. And also knows what we're trying to do, and Randy's been in a long time. Does a great job. Great job.
Jim, when you say you've been more vocal, does that mean you've been in more quarterback meetings? Have you changed?
I was always in them, but sometimes I would, once I had things established, but I'm being a lot more vocal with them. Not that I don't have any confidence, but I just think that relationship has to be molded. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Just like I had it with Jameis early, just like I had it with Ponder, just like I had it with DJ. And the point of how certain things I say, what I want done, how I call a play, or even that relationship and talk back and forth in how you call plays, what I'm really wanting, you know what I mean, in situations. I just think you got to keep that line in, whether somebody else says or not, or my tone, my demeanor. There's all kinds of things that people don't, that really go into understanding someone. It's like, I always say, it's like, if you're married, your wife, and how you say something one way and say something another, but they know in that situation, I know exactly what he wants or she wants. You know what I mean? And those things. And I think it's the same way. You got to really bond that relationship.
Has he been good being vocal back? I thought you
really
said,
good.
Yeah.
Really good, which is one of the things I want him to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which usually young guys are, and it's not. He's kind of in between. He's not a really vocal guy, but he's not a totally quiet guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's in between, and he does a good job. Because like I say, just communicate with me and tell me why. Why you're doing it, what you're seeing. If you tell me that, we can fix anything.
When you started in college coaching, it was somewhat unusual for true freshmen or redshirt freshmen or third quarter. What's changed? Where it's
no one stays in school. No one stays in school. Seriously, it's that simple. Why we play them all? Everybody wants to go to pros after 3 years. You don't stay in school. No one has any patience to do it. We're trying to go up there. You never used to play till you was a redshirt sophomore or junior quarterback. Those days are over with. They're all over with. Players in general, I say this all the time, and by the time you truly you can be a great athlete. There's very few Jameses of the world or a Dalvin or even a Derwin that really that play. The thing about Jameis' freshman year, I'm going to go to that, you had to ask me a question. What amazed me about, not that he played so well, he played so consistent. I don't care how talented you are as a young human being, you can make those great plays. But when you really to play with great consistency usually comes with maturity. You know what I mean? Because usually there's some kind of thing that I feel to me, I ain't never been through it, to do with those things are very, very rare. And I think that's why you're seeing so many of them, to answer your question, for one reason. Everybody's leaving school early. But it's why it's so hard. You can have great athletes, you'll say, well, man, they blew 1 or 2 games. You know what? Yeah, they're 18 years old. I mean, think about you when you first time you ever got a job. Could you do the job when you first got the job you're doing now? No. You learn on it. And that's why we have so many, that's why I think you see the inconsistencies in college football as much as you do now. Because so many young guys are playing, they're great athletes, but you don't know when that one game they're going to fly off. And that's the challenge, trying to mix. And that's one of the things I like about this team. There's enough experience, even though it's young, that some of these guys are trying to help these guys understand the big picture. And I think that's the hardest thing in college football today. And it always was, even when you had juniors and seniors. I say this all the time. I remember the day. Keith Jackson and Frank Broyles and those guys. Remember, every sophomore you start, you're going to lose a game. Remember that? For every sophomore you start, you're going to lose. And it went for, I think it went for like 18 or 19 out of 21 years or 20 out of 21. And I was in the SEC at that time, back in the, learning in the 80s and all that time, 70s. And whoever started that had the most experienced team, started the least number of young, won the SEC. I mean, experience makes a difference, guys, in that age. Now, and because we get so enamored with the talent now, we forget they're still young guys.
Jimbo, you mentioned Telvin Smith, I think, frequently, but you didn't think of him so much as a linebacker or defensive player, as just a football player, the total package. Where is DeMarcus in that regard to?
They're different than Telvin because Telvin could be such a line. They're so different positions, it's hard to compare. DeMarcus, and what he does a great job. Him as playing the run, playing the pass, being a team, I mean, he does a phenomenal job. It's easier for a linebacker to control more because he's more vocal when it has more responsibilities than what he does, you know what I'm saying? But DeMarcus has done one heck of it. He's had a great camp so far. Played really well. I mean, run, pass, effort. I mean, he gets it, trying to get the other guys around. He's one of our team leaders and doing a tremendous job.
Do you want him to be more vocal, or has he got more
vocal?
vocal?
He's more vocal. He's plenty vocal. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, he's really good with his speaking out and doing it at the right times and things.
Jimbo, going back to the young players often not having great consistency, with DeAndre, if he is the starter and if he does keep the job, is there any concern when you have such an early, tough schedule, but maybe there could be some consistency things? Do you do anything differently?
I didn't know. There's always concern. Anytime the first time. And as a coach, it's no more concern because we still have the same concerns. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to look for signs and things in guys when they're young. I think you have to, I think if you're the coach in time, what you start to figure out is when a guy starts, a lot of it comes from mental fatigue. Mm-hmm. Not with just them. I mean, they don't understand the true grind of, you know, those guys are used to practicing hard 3 weeks in the high school that come in as freshmen. They practice hard 3 weeks during the year because the other 7 they know they're better than everybody. You know what I mean? Or you start, and then they don't realize how hard we practice every day, how demanding we are every day, how this is every day. And then all of a sudden, you know, they're good for 4 weeks, and they're, man, Coach, I need a break. No, you don't get a break. You know what I mean? So I think there's how you coach those guys and what you put on them is very critical too.
What are some of those signs that you look for?
Well, you just watch their mind, watch the inconsistency, watch the body language. I mean, you know, look at why is he making a mistake? Why you're now question him first. Maybe there's something going on at home. Maybe that's what these guys that predict all these games. I wish you guys, those predictors would say, tell me when the girlfriend's going to break up with him. Somebody says something bad about Twitter. My mom and dad got up and somebody's upset. I wish you could predict all those things that affect how they play. And what else goes on. I wish you could do all that stuff. But you know, you don't know. And I think that's where keeping the open lines of communication with these kids. Because they got more stuff going on now than they ever have. Because they know more and they can get more information. Back in the day, man, we were isolated. I go back and think about the way we played and what I knew was going on in the world compared to what these kids do and what's happening. Lord Almighty, you talk about sheltered. That ain't a bad thing.
What do you, not to make comparisons or anything, but what do you remember about Jameis's first start? It was on Labor Day night too. I think he mischoose, it was.
All those things you were saying right there, I had going into that game. I mean, I had them, but I believe. I mean, but you don't. At the end of the day, you coach them, you trust them, you get them in practice, you turn it loose, and ask them to do things they're comfortable with.
But were you blown away that night, that game?
Huh?
Were you like, when Jameis had that game fit, were you like, man, this could be something?
At the time you do, but I'll be honest with you. At the time you're in it, I didn't realize he only missed 2 passes until I read the stats. I really didn't. I didn't know that. I don't pay attention to that. I mean, we live for the moment, thinking the next thing. I mean, I was just trying to go over mistakes he made, correct the, keep enforcing the good things and go. You don't, then afterwards you went and it was pretty amazing. And then also, now that caused a set of problems. Because now y'all got him anointed as all that, and I joke about that, but it does. Now how the media affects these guys. What you don't know is how media affects. And the back in the old days, you wrote 1 or 2 articles, there was a paper, and they never even got half of them. They didn't know what the Miami paper, or the Jacksonville paper, or unless somebody from home called them, Tampa paper, Orlando, they didn't even know what was written in it. Now, they got 10 articles right now just pop right up on their phone and they read it. And don't think that isn't a factor of how they handle success, or how they handle criticism, or how they handle failure. Their maturity levels, all those types of things. All that that's why we have to have the large staffs of people, and the people who help these kids mentally, psychologically deal with so much. That's why they're under so much more pressure. It's not nobody's fault, it's just the world we live in.
Jimbo, how much harder is it now to have quarterback depth than it used to be in terms of transfer and things like that?
It is, because they know how many guys play. 1, you know what I mean? So it is. I mean, and that's what I keep trying to tell them. I go back, and I had, even in 2000, I had Rohan and Josh Booty. I had Jamarcus Russell and Matt Flynn in the same class. I mean, they stayed the whole time. Look what happened to them. Didn't Casey and Brad turn out pretty good? I think some of these kids, if they'd realize and relax a little bit, they would end up being better, and the more mature they'd be ready to handle the things that go on with them. They'd learn some ups and downs and what goes on. But it's hard because one play, and my little Johnny should be playing. You know what I mean? And I understand. I got kids too. I understand that. I mean, you got to make decisions, but they don't realize how much depth and how easy, an injury can jump in there and things happen. And wish you'd have more patience, but that's the world we live in. But it's hard.
You talk about how players are leaving for the pros. They don't stay in school, and you don't have as long to develop them. Does that change the way you recruit as far as looking at kids in high school, knowing that they might not be there the full 4 years?
Well, yeah. I mean, certain guys you may not redshirt as much. You know what I mean? Knowing they're not going to try and stay for 5 years anymore. You know what I mean? And everything you do. And I think it comes from lack of evaluations and the amount of right information they get out of not only the pro guys, because they mess up on it, but there's so many people in these kids' ear now because the money's went up. As soon as the money went up, what everybody do? Everybody's going, the agents, the runners, everybody's trying to get a piece of it, so they're hearing it. They're hearing things from what? 30 people? And you say, well, I'm not letting them meet with an agent. Well, tell me how I can stop them with this cell phone now. Tell me how you can stop guys from getting in contact with guys or family members. There's so much more that they hear. So in recruiting, you do. I mean, I know, knowing I'm probably not going to have this guy for 5 years. The redshirt days, not that they're over. And the thing about it is, it's funny, like they did that stay the other day. All your top quarterbacks in the league right now. Aaron Rodgers, when did he play? When Tom Brady play? When Drew Brees play? They all set. You know what I'm saying? And I'm making your point here that probably more kids do need to be redshirted and play. But you can't because guys are turning over so fast, and it's like a hole you can never fill. Does that make any sense? I mean, you're trying to always catch up because they're wanting to leave. I mean, I don't think it's good. I think patience would be better for them because where you go into the league matters and being mature enough to handle it.
Coach, I know he's hurt, but when you look at all that turnover, you have somebody like a 5-year person like Sean McGuire. How valuable is he in that case? Extremely
well, and he's been great with our team in the last couple of days. I mean, that second day when, like he said, I noticed him first day, that him wrap so hard on the other foot, he couldn't move, had to get that off of there. But then the second day, he said he felt something. Third day, he had that happen. So, but his value, being so valuable with us is his demeanor. He never gets too high, he never gets too low because he's seen it. You know what I mean? Again, the experience of going through it and watching other guys and things that happen, he's a very calming force for our football team.
Jimbo, in the spring, you seem to be challenging Josh Sweat to be dominant. And how have you seen him respond to that?
Is, and I'm still challenging more. I'm gonna tell you what, now you talk about powerful. Whew. Whew. Pound for pound, one of the most powerful guys I've been around. Everybody talks about him, and you talk about him. Hold you out to run and stuff. And now the pass rush is coming and being more relentless. And I think a lot of that comes back from trusting the knee. Because he was playing on a knee that he really wasn't. No one thought he would play on, and he rehabbed so well. You know what I'm saying? And I think that trust comes back. You see that the aggressiveness and things keep coming. And I'm hoping he continues to take strides.
Jimbo, you talked in the spring about a lot of opportunities, specifically for young receivers. And given how Auden Tate performed in the spring game, what are your expectations for him this fall?
All right, good, but he's hurt right now. He didn't practice 2 days. He has to stay on the field. I mean, good. I mean, now, it's not his fault, nothing you can do, but he has a chance to be a very good player. I mean, he's big body, strong. His routes, look like they've gotten better. You know what I mean? Learning how to get to where his spots were. We got to get him healthy. So he may, but I think today he may go today, or maybe out another day or so, and I think we'll get him back.
Jimbo, what you made was about maturity, and last year this was a team that, they couldn't put together a complete game at times. With the offense, what changes have you seen that make you say, all right, this is a team that understands how important it is to convert on third down and short yardage situations?
Well, I don't think you say convert, then if you convert on first down, you convert on third down a lot better. It's just playing with consistency across the board. I mean, and there's still things I want to see. There still haven't seen everything I want to see. And at the end of the day, are you executing? Because at the end of the day, we're measured by what the results are. At the end of the day, you can still say it. It ain't about the results, but it gets at. But how you get there is going to be the key. And I think how they're getting there seems better. But I still think we still got work in progress. Defensively too. I think we do all the way across the board. But I think everybody in America does. I don't think people realize how fine a line we all walk as coaches. Some of y'all relax on things and think just because this is there. I wish I could get that relaxation. How fine a line we really walk about what's happening and what's not happening. It might be even with your championship teams and all that type of stuff. There's always those times we go back and laugh about it all the time. And we use those experiences. Man, here, but that was the same way then. Now it doesn't mean it's going to turn out that way, good or bad either way. You just rely on those experiences and how you went about it, and try to coach or teach from it.
How does the level of, say, clutter compare this year to last time? Remember last media day, Dalvin was in the picture, out of the picture, and maintenance.
Probably not as much here.
Just in general, the distractions.
But that clutter was good, but that's not always the clutter I talk about. I mean, because felt good about that situation, I did. I mean, but because knowing the truth again. But there's probably less now. But I think there's also less clutter because you've had more guys that have been in the fire, and so they're learning to listen to us more. Because a lot of times listen to home, listen to this. You can listen to your coach, but am I listening? I'm scared to death. I'm trying to make my way. You know what I'm saying? I think there's more experience, which is allowing less clutter, and they understand that clutter can hurt them. You know what I'm saying? But now, do you ever totally eliminate it? No. I remember I was 18 to 22 once too. Tell me how you do that on any 18 to 22.
I want to know about Trey Marshall. He was hurt last year, so we want to know where he's going to be.
Right now, he's going to be right in the middle of it. He's playing really well right now. Doing well. I mean, he can play nickel, he can play safety. You can spin him in the box a lot of different ways. Covering well, running well. Trey is a heck of a football player.
He's going to be a great ally for us.
Oh, big time. Trey can play. Trey can play.
Jimbo, how was DeAndre handled the last couple of days being the guy, not necessarily having the competition from Sean? Is he kind of...
I haven't seen any change. I mean, he's still pressing and pushing. DeAndre's the guy. Now, it doesn't make him right or wrong or make him a great player, but for instance, I didn't know, like in spring practice, I would leave and go in, and my son Trey was always at a lot of practices, and he told me a couple times, he said, DeAndre, and I'd go in there with him and watch him and talk to him. He goes in the indoor and practices over, and some of the things you taught him to work on, he'll go in there for 30, 40 minutes after every practice. I had no idea. Make another throw, do this, or work footwork. You know what I mean? So, I don't mean that having Sean there is good if he pushes you, but he's a guy that I think pushes himself anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because Sean wasn't there in the spring anyway. He's a worker that way. He likes to grind that part of it.
How much, you can look at the statistics with Dalvin, 7.5 every time he touches the ball, all that stuff in there. But if you coach him, but are there a lot of moments still with Dalvin where you're looking to go, you can't coach that? I mean,
no doubt. I mean, the speed and taking those, a lot of guys at the 20-yard run, it's a 60-yard run because of that top-end speed. And like I say, and like our job is to teach him how to get that first 5 yards. And after that, you know, it's got to be instincts and go. You got to get him there, you got the blocking schemes right, get hats on hats, and let him go. And of course, he breaks tackles, but all great players. I mean, isn't it a coincidence that all of our national championships came with when the quarterbacks won the Heisman? Isn't that funny? You go back there and go look at Alabama's national championship when they had 12 guys drafted. I mean, we've been in it. We've had 11, and one had 11, had 7. I mean, that's you can't to win and be successful. Players and coaching in each is important. You can't have one without the other. I don't care what you say. And people get misnomers about it. And we as a coach, I'm the first one to say, I don't coach that. But you got to recruit it, but you got to structure it to where it can get to where it gets to.
So you're looking to break a trend, Heisman Trophy championship and a Heisman Trophy for a running back?
That would be great. It'd be great. You know, you don't have one of those. You know what I mean?
The state's never produced a Heisman running back. It's produced, I mean.
This state hasn't?
No, I don't think they've ever had a Heisman running back. Who played for a state school?
Henry from?
Yeah, Derrick Henry's from Florida.
Yeah, he's from Ewing.
No, I meant playing for a state school.
Okay, that's the way it changed. Yeah, Derek was. But other than that, you're right, though. There hasn't been another one, though. That is interesting. I mean, there's another stat. I learn something a day. You learn something every day. But I mean, it is. I mean, but you know, also when you're talking about running, but you're also in an area where you're conducive to throw the football because you're in weather conditions and you have other skill guys and you have balance. I mean, some of that equates into it too. I mean, you know, style of play goes into a lot of things in what you do, and the kind of other athletes in what you can have.
In retrospect, how injured was he last year?
He never did pull. He just had a slight pull and it was real tight. I mean, then he had the ankle when it did, but I mean, he had the one that pulled it a little bit and he could feel it. It was just something that was, sometimes they go away, sometimes they don't on hamstrings. And having a GPS system is why we allowed to work him, press him up to get him right during the week and then pull him back and get the right amount of work to be able to get through it. But tell me this, I know I joke about this. You guys don't know them all, but back to it, nobody's healthy. Guys, nobody's healthy as far as, you know, thinking I can just go run like I feel right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to have a bump, a bruise, a swell, a sore shoulder, a sore leg. But you're doing baseball. You're doing basketball. I mean, the tear of the feet. I mean, everybody. That's the thing about sports. That's why I keep going back to the mental side of it. That's why it makes him such a great player. He can deal with those things and still produce. Some guys can't. Some guys can't deal with injury. It's not toughness. Sometimes it's a mental set. That's all I focus on. They can't deal with that. That's what makes sports. I'm not talking about just football. Also, you think hockey players aren't sore? You think Michael Phelps, all those hours of swimming, you heard him talk about it. The hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and how his body felt and how he felt and how mentally drained. And I mean, just to know, the gymnastics sports, actually per capita, it wasn't, I remember when I was at LSU, the most tragic injuries of any sport when you had major surgeries was women's gymnastics. And when they did get hurt, it was something major that got blown out or something. You know what I mean? That wear and tear any athlete puts on his body and the mental capacity to comprehend it, deal with it, and still produce. That's the thing about athletes that we say about it in football, but all sports have it. And I don't know if we really, really appreciate because of how much knowledge we have now and insight of how hard that really is, and to still be successful. So what he did, he was banged, he was bruised, but he could deal with it. And to me, that's one of the signs that he's going to be a good player. Just like I thought Jameis, the things he went through here, to me, ought to have been a tall tale sign for the NFL. This guy can deal with a lot of things. He can he was the best at compartmentalizing. We spent a lot of time in that, teaching our kids how to do that. We do with that. We spend a lot of time in our mental health, our conditioning, our psychology, of teaching kids how to compartmentalize. Because they got something going on at home. They got a tough situation. School ain't going well. Girlfriend ain't going well. Coach is on me. I got this pressure. I got that pressure. I got a hurt leg. I got a hurt. We spend a lot of time in teaching kids to mentally compartmentalize, to be able to deal with things, control the things you can control at the time you can control them and move on. And Dalvin is one of the best at it.
One more question.
You talk about
Grab a phone. Quiet.
you talk about how the players affect their teammates. How have you seen DeAndre affect his teams?
They have come. First of all, one of the first things you want to see when you play with somebody, and I don't care what you say, it is the physical attributes. You know what I mean? People say, man, they judge, can you run enough? Can you jump enough? Can you throw it enough? Can you catch it enough or shoot it enough or whatever it may be? Kick it enough? They judge that. So from that standpoint, I mean, he catches your eye. But then again, the things I was talking about, going into the indoor by himself, calling guys, they said he'd call them all the time, different times, throw with them all the time. But Sean did too. All of our guys have had great. So I think people respect guys who put time in, who put their work in, who know they have not only their best interest at heart, but the team's best interest. How he gets coached, how he, when somebody else is down or I've gotten on somebody, he'll go over and say something to him. I mean, I think all those aspects, I think he's done a great job that way. But here's the other thing. It's not his job to do a lot of that right now. As much as he can do within himself to let it, first of all, he's got to get himself and get his feet on the ground. That's one of the things I like. We should have enough experience around him that there isn't everything on him. Some of the burden's got to go on all the other guys, a big part of it. Just like it did with Jameis early. I think that was one of the keys for him.
Given the fact that your quarterback situation is not as deep as it was, right? What we saw, JJ, how was that just the worst possible situation?
Oh man, he got blocked, missed blocks. I mean, all season he ain't doing it. All of a sudden he gets thrown into it. That's about a perfect storm. You know what I mean? And it is. JJ's playing much better right now in camp and doing a good job. And so, but the things got to get better on, yes. And hopefully that doesn't scar him. That's what I say. You can ruin a guy before you make a guy. Sometimes patience is better, and making sure you get in good situations to be successful and build your confidence. Because it's amazing. Once I think I can do something, I got the same ability. I mean, think the guy who doesn't do it and the guy who does do it, does he have the same physical ability? Yes. Where's the difference at? In his mind. A lot of it comes from the experiences you have when you first get in it, how much confidence you have and how much you don't have. You know what I'm saying? But he's having a pretty good camp. He's doing better. Malik's growing. Malik's learning the offense, learning base things. The thing they got to realize is like Malik and those other guys, learning the base things to do and the right things to do before I go run around and make a play. Because that looks good in practice and that may last for a game. I don't last for a long period of time. And I think both of those guys. That's what I got to see how both of them. Can they go in and do the base things the right way?
Last year during games, it seemed like whenever you're coaching up Everett or Sean on the sidelines, Dion was right there, just really attentive, looking on.
That's him now. He can't get enough information. That's him. You were very observant on that. And that's typical of him. I mean, he puts the time, and he likes ball. I mean, some guys play the sport, some guys love it. You know what I mean? That's the guys that end up going to being dum-dums and win the coaching. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, he's one of those guys. I mean, he's a guy who likes the whys of the game. You know what I mean? He likes to understand it and be around it. Enjoys it. He really does. Right.
Jimbo, can you talk about the growth of Kermit Whitfield from like the time he stepped on campus and to today? He's gone through quite a maturity process.
Yes, he has. And I tell you what, last couple of days he's really been running well, running his routes well, using his speed even better. That's what we're constantly after him to do because he'll use it when he gets the ball, learn to use it without the ball. You know what I'm saying? Has really taken a role before. Because Kermit was a return guy. Everybody handed him the ball. To go play receiver, you got to learn to play without it. That's a big challenge. People don't realize that. That's a big challenge. It's like, I guess, here's what I want him to do. Run routes like Reggie Miller tried to get off picks. See, Reggie Miller ran a heck of a lot more without the ball than he did with it. You know what I mean? Trying to get those guys open like Ray Allen's in the world. Now I use that for an example of constantly just zig, because then I get the ball, I get space, and once he gets it, then he can take off and be fast again. You know what I'm saying? There's an art to that. He's learned that, gotten much better at that. His hands have gotten much better, being much more consistent, and the last 2 days has had really, really good practices.
We good?
Anybody else? Thank you.